Okay, folks, this is part two of what I'm talking about here. Kind of why do we keep eating the same stuff? Why are we locked into these habits in life? And that's I guess the way that we are as human beings. The older we get, the more we get into these habits, and that's why you gotta. I don't know. I gotta keep kicking myself out of certain ruts sometimes. That's the best way of putting it. But so depending on our situation, on our unique situation, um, and everybody's in a different spot here. Um, Depending on what our situation is, it is never okay. It is never okay to go for a week without vegetables. You know, it's never okay without some form of vegetable. Right? It could be canned vegetables. Whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, You could go for a day. You could go for a day with no vegetables. I'll grant you that. But you probably shouldn't. But you technically could go. You could go for a day without any vegetables, and you'd be fine. Now, if your diet does not allow, I mean, if there's no vegetables that are, you could, I mean, there are places in the world where there's no access to certain kinds of foods. So in that case, that's a different story. I mean, um, you just try to eat whatever everybody else is eating. That's really healthy. Um, but yeah, I mean, in general, we're talking about vegetables. We're talking about even like edible flowers and herbs and stuff like that. Rose petals. um, a lot of things that fall into that vegetable. I'm not talking about the starchy vegetables. I'm not talking about potatoes. I'm not talking about corn. I'm talking about sweet potatoes and yams. Yeah, but it's all the lower sugar vegetables, right? It's all the non-starchy vegetables. Carrots are part of that. I mean, carrots are fine. Carrots are included. Rutabaga, parsnip, beets, radishes. These are all low sugar stuff. You're not going to spike your sugar. Not going to do that. Grains will often spike your blood sugar. Vegetables will not. Non-starchy vegetables will not. Um, but yeah, don't do it. And the more when you get some of that variety, get variety of different you know plant families. It's gonna be your health is gonna go up. Look, on a given week, I eat foods from the chenopod family, spinach and Swiss chard, and beets and stuff. And quinoa is also that same. I eat foods from the brassicas, of course, brassicas, and a lot of brassicas, a wide variety of brassicas. Some people call them cruciferous vegetables. I eat foods from the Apiaceae family, celery and carrots, and fennel seed, stuff like that, caraway seed, fennel itself. I also, have foods from the Asteraceae family, lettuces and artichoke, sunflower seeds. And then there's also like the Cucurbitaceae family, all the zucchini cucumber stuff, and there's like melons and squashes and stuff that's in there, all that stuff. And then of course Lamiaceae is all the herbs, and also have Lauraceae. I guess some people include avocado as vegetables. Like, sure, whatever. I don't know. We won't get into that whole thing, but and then there's Piperaceae for pipe, but I cover the bases. And then there's the Solanaceae, the nightshade family. I get some of those too. I'm not don't really eat tomatoes very often, but the main nightshades I think I'll have. It tends to be more things like, gosh, hold on. Well, I'll have eggplant at Indian restaurants, but um, I think it's more like the paprika that I have from, you know, well, it's more bell peppers. Bell peppers are in the Solanaceae family. So honestly, I don't really have a whole lot of nightshades, but I'll still include some here and there. Just I'm not supposed to eat potatoes very much right now. But I'll have sweet potato. Actually, sweet potato might be a little different. Anyway, so but you get these different plant families going on, and then with fruits, same deal. But especially emphasis on berries, same deal with all the other plant foods, like the nuts. Get some Juggledossier with the walnuts and the pecans or whatever, and then get some hazelnuts of a different family as well. Then you get the Anacardiaceae with the cashews and pistachios, and um, that's they get the seeds, right? Well, of course. Anyway, and beans, right? Fabaceae, and then maybe a little Poaceae, a little bit of grains, right? And then some mushrooms too. And then I forgot the allium family with vegetables again. All the alliums, all the onions and garlic and stuff. And that's how I do it. And I make sure that I get like a dozen or more different plant family foods in my diet every single week. You know, variety and a lot of fresh and a lot of frozen, a lot of fresh and frozen. That's the most important thing. Is all the we have to get the calorie foods in there. We have to we have things to do. We can't just sit around and eat salad all day, right? I get that, but when you're eating this way, when you're getting your salads in, when you're getting your variety in, you're taking care of your body. You're doing maintenance. You're saying your body's able to recover on its own from anything remotely that's happening that's not good. Your body's recovering from it when you eat this way. Wouldn't you rather eat that way than yeah, you see what I'm saying, right? When you eat all this stuff, Dr. Furman talks about this all the time. Whether or not, even if Dr. Furman isn't really thrilled about animal foods, all that stuff he's talking about plant foods, all that stuff he's mentioning, it's 100% correct. Your taste buds change. Your taste buds change when you eat vegetables more often. They aren't so unpleasant. They actually are very tolerable. Sometimes they're actually kind of tasty. So the Europeans can brag about the quality of the produce all they want. But again, all we can do is what we can do. And if so the tomatoes taste amazing in Poland. Why don't we just all move to Poland? I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry, tomatoes grow farther south. Poland would be sugar beets or something. I don't know. Anyway, so we have to eat fuel foods, and we need to eat foods that sometimes will just fill us up, and produce doesn't always do that. You guys have heard me talk. You see what I buy. Eggs and chicken are just no-brainers, and pork is fine in moderation, right? What that means is eat pork once or twice a week. One or just a few servings. That's so fine. That's fine. Probably make it regular pork and not the ham or the bacon, especially the bacon, unless it's uncured. But the uncured stuff is still not the most amazing stuff in the world. But if Dr. Berg is like, have some bacon, okay, But chicken, eggs, and turkey when you can find it. It's we want the good stuff, we want the high quality stuff, we want the pasture raised, we want the organic, right? The pasture raised eggs and with the whole meat fish thing, it's just that we're looking at satisfying our caloric needs here with a lot of animal foods because dairy, let's face it, it should not be a food group. It shouldn't be a food group. But I'm not going to say that butter and ice cream are particularly unhealthy. I'm not going to say that grass-fed Greek yogurt and grass-fed milk is unhealthy. I'm going to say, yeah, they're just fine. It's just that maybe they're not something that we all need to eat. Maybe it's more like something that is just nice to have here and there. Because especially if we're having a fair bit of animal proteins, yeah, meat, that's still high quality, right? Grass-fed stuff. If we're getting a fair amount of that stuff, maybe it's best to not or not do very much of the dairy anyway. And you worry about calcium and vitamin D, how absorbable is the calcium from vegetables and all that stuff. You're going to get enough. Look, you're going to get enough calcium. You will. There's a lot of absorbable calcium in vegetables. There's a lot of absorbable calcium in beans. There's a lot of absorbable calcium in eggs and fruit. You never notice. Like oranges have calcium. Who would have thought? Berries. It's not like a whole heck of a lot, but if you're eating more produce, right? If you're getting more produce in your diet, especially vegetables, the celery and the carrots, dark greens. Who cares about the spinach having oxalates and stuff? You're not eating spinach all the time. You're getting a variety of stuff. So there's a lot. You're going to get enough calcium, and if you're supplementing with a vitamin D magnesium thing, like I supplement sometimes with vitamin D. Actually, vitamin D is the most important supplement, and I'm looking for that iodine too. I know which things to get, but like if you're getting that extra calcium from supplements, you are golden, man. And a lot of people, my brother doesn't believe that you really need a lot of calcium. He says you get enough calcium from regular diet. It's vitamin D that you need because especially if you live in more temperate, colder areas of the United States, Canada, you're gonna need that vitamin D, man. You're not getting tons of mushrooms and fish in your diet. You're gonna need that vitamin D. So supplement, man. Anyway, and there's only so much vitamin D in eggs. Yes, salmon has vitamin D. No, we can't afford salmon every night, unless we're Bill Gates. So, so that the things I was just mentioning, all these natural whole plant foods, real food, that is what you buy. That's what you buy. And if you don't buy the other stuff, your taste buds do change. And if you treat all the other stuff like, okay, like it's so easy just to say, well, it's just an occasional thing, right? I only eat occasionally, or it's a little snack that somebody gave me. People will offer you, I don't care. People will offer you snack after snack after snack, and we probably have more snacks than we realize. We have to say that if it's processed, or if anything, I don't care, anything that is made by a company, anything, it just has to be. I mean, like you have Bob's Red Mill, but you have exceptions, right? But if it's cold cereal, if it's juice, if it's candy, if it's like top ramen and packaged stuff like that, it's refined breads. If it's microwavable food, it's breaded, or Lunchables, and so on, so chips, crackers. This is stuff that is not something that we ought to be eating every single day. More like once a week. More like one serving of it. 1 or 2 servings. Have a muffin, but don't have another muffin for another month. When I say muffin, I'm referring to like poppy seed muffins that have, again, refined flour in them. Because in the United States, when you buy poppy seed muffins in a store, you can't, we don't have, we have sprouted grain bread that tastes nasty. We don't have rye and pumpernickel bread like they have in Germany. We have bakeries, but the bakeries are chock full of refined breads. If you find a decent, healthier bread, wow, my hat's off to you. But bread has gluten, so it's like just avoid the bread. Period. You don't need it. You don't need it. But how many of us? Let's just talk about bread here for a second. How many of us are like, okay, let's see here. We need bread because we need to make sandwiches. What kind of, my kids are not going to like the sprouted bread. Or I'm not going to like the sprouted bread. But we got to have that bread. We got to have that bread. It's just part of the standard American diet. Right? Because I'm a standard American person. With a standard American fat belly. No. Nobody's forcing you to buy the bread. Don't buy the bread. Wow, what amazing concept that is, right? Whoa, bing! Like the bread companies go out of business. Maybe have the farmers in Kansas and Nebraska and the Dakotas grow something else for crying out loud. And while we're talking about bread and just eating less of it, let's talk about corn. Maybe stop eating so much corn. It's not doing anybody any favors. I mean, Indian corn is low in sugar. The Navajos that eat that, it's not exactly the most appetizing thing in the world, but I have absolutely nothing against corn. But what do we eat? We eat sweet yellow corn. We don't have Indian corn. It's like, the brown type. We don't always eat blue corn. It's the sweet corn. Why everything has to be sweet in the United States? Ah, you know, sugary, sweet, high fructose corn syrup everywhere. Sure, we don't need the corn on the cob, but it's probably better to have the corn on the cob than it is to buy super sweet corn. It's not organic. It's GMO crap. I guess the word crap is rather severe, but and then like, oh, so we're not going to have wheat or anything with gluten? Like, no more oatmeal? What? Oatmeal is probably not doing your gut very many favors, but I'm not going to say don't eat your oats, steel cut oats. I'm just saying maybe don't have it every single day. Yeah, like maybe once or twice a week, maybe a few times a month, maybe, right? Have some eggs instead. Eggs and have your grass-fed Greek yogurt a little bit. I don't know. Have some fruit. Have some vegetables. Why not? Have some asparagus. Is it against the law to have asparagus for breakfast? Some onions. Have a salad. Carrots and celery. What's wrong with that? Oh, that's not a breakfast item. That's a lunch. Oh, come on, man. You know, have leftovers for breakfast. You know what I usually have for breakfast? A third of the time, a third of my breakfasts are leftovers. Because when I make dinner, I always make more than I can eat, or I should more. I always make more than I should eat. So I often have leftovers. Not always, but I often have leftovers. You know, it's always the thing about those leftovers that you never really get to eating, so then you have to throw them out. Yes, I understand. I get that. So just ease off the bread, man. Ease off the conventional milk. And the cheese. No, cheese is not doing anybody any favors. Unless you're buying those expensive European cheeses that are stinky and have the vitamin K2. I've heard about this stuff. But just, oh, man, but I'm not talking about, like, if you like your cheese and you have the low-fat cheese and you know what you're doing, and you get the higher quality cheese, fine, right? Maybe you're having cheese instead of beef. That's probably okay. Mr. Rogers, man. Mr. Rogers, he had his dairy food. He has dairy instead of the the meat and the poultry. He skipped the meat and poultry and the fish, egg. He just had dairy along with plant foods. So it's like, he's getting his complete proteins from his dairy and along with whatever you could get. Like, I don't think Mr. Rogers had quinoa, buckwheat, soy very often, that sort of thing. Maybe beans and rice, who knows? But anyway, what else in our standard American diet do we just need to rethink a bit? So I mentioned the bread. I've mentioned the corn. I've mentioned grains in general. I mentioned milk and cheese and just and cereal. No, just no. Just feed everybody, if you're for family or for yourself, whatever it is. Just have more salad. Get used to eating salad and some fruit and some rice and beans. Make it the night before. Some egg. Right? Some nuts. Nuts are very filling. Honestly, nuts and seeds should be our snack foods. Peanuts and cashews and pistachios and macadamias, walnuts and pecans. You know, that is what we should be snacking on. That when I say I'm hungry, have some nuts, right? Have some seeds. Now, in the kids are eating chia seeds and flax seeds. I'm like, oh, maybe. Hardcore, right? But it's like, you say, or, and then my mom would say, have some fruit, have some carrots and celery. We always went for the fruit, right? Yeah, my mom, we had ice cream bars, but yeah. Hmm. When you start getting into like chips, yeah, tortilla chips are better, but when you start getting into, uh, it's a slippery slope, right? Pizza and cookies, some cookies being better, and you start getting to eventually you get into the chocolate zone, and then you get to candy, right? And you could be, a lot of people in the United States, if it hasn't hit them yet, you could literally go to the store and you could half the things you buy, half your shopping trip, 3/4 shopping trip is what? Fruit drinks, soda, candy, chips, pork rinds, which, is pork rinds aren't the worst thing in the world. Ho-hos, Twinkies, microwavable meals. Uh, yeah, you know, the more colorful, the better. The more immediately enjoyable, the better. Cake, donuts. That's how a lot of Americans are. I know. And it's those Americans that are probably not going to want to see this video. But for those few that do, and they're still here, it's hitting them close because I mentioned these. This is a multifaceted thing, right? We're talking about what your parents might have fed you. We're talking about maybe the freedom that you felt when you first were away from home, and you don't want to lose that freedom, or you don't want someone else to tell you what to eat, right? Or, I know what's good for me. There's so much crap I have to deal with. I know. I'm the same way. We're all in the same boat, folks. What I'm trying to say is, when you can save money by buying these cheaper plant foods, that it's the little successes, right? The little things that we do on a daily basis that help us out in the future, right? When you change your base taste buds over time, when you change these taste buds, you will lose the desire to have this cheap crap. That is indeed crap. I know it's really tasty. I know it's really salty. I know it's really sugary. I know it's really good. I know the packaging is very colorful. I know this better than most anybody. As a little boy, that's what I wanted. I wanted the brightly colored things. They're still outside of me. That's just like, whoa. But man, man alive, if it's not a whole food, and even fruits we need to watch a little bit, it's like, okay. And so I mentioned dairy, I mentioned grains, eating more produce. So the dairy and the grains need to just, it's not like you have to get those, right? You don't have to get them. Get your produce, get your fuel foods that are healthier. What are healthier fuel foods? Beans, nuts, seeds, pasture-raised eggs, organic poultry, right? But the more we get into these animal foods, the maybe we want to just be careful how much we have of them, quantity. A little bit of grass-fed red meat is great. Just quantity, right? Fish, wild-caught fish, and avocado and olives, sweet potato, yams, potato if you have lower blood sugar. These are the kind of fuel foods to buy, not top ramen, not mac and cheese. Sadly, not really cold cereal. I mean, Crispix, you can make an argument for Crispix, but Crispix probably should not be an everyday thing. Just maybe not. Um. Okay. what have I? There's some other things over here. Okay, so whenever you are talking about replacing something that isn't so great with something that's better, it's just it's an experiment thing, right? You need to try things. If you don't like it, don't get too much of a new thing, right? Just try it. The next shopping trip is next week. Try something different. If you like something a lot, get it again. Um, keep in mind, variety is the spice of life, and your body loves variety. So, get something different. If you just didn't like those Brussels sprouts, or you just haven't learned how to make them very well yet, don't buy them next time. Get something different. You don't have to buy Brussels sprouts, but you'll probably want to have some kind of green. A few different kinds of greens for the week. Maybe don't always buy the iceberg lettuce, even if the iceberg lettuce is supposedly the cheaper one. Maybe, oh, sorry, it's kind of a weird camera thing that just happened. Maybe, um, yeah, you see what I'm saying, right? We need this because of this. We need this because of this. Really, really, have your grocery list based on nutrition and your budget, nutrition, and what you can eat without too much issue, what you're not going to waste, and such things. A few other things, right? What's going to be happening that week? What's your lifestyle going to be like? You want to plan it out. You don't, nobody's forcing you to buy stuff. Ignore the advertising. It's very hard. Now, I want to talk about a few other things as well here. Talk about a few other things. So, it's kind of like this. It's like when your taste buds change, it changes your psychology. It changes your brain. It is a different way of being. And there are ways of being that we ought to be more that way. Right? Right? Nobody wants to be um, addicted to sugar like you would be addicted to drugs. But maybe some of us are. Can any of us go for a whole week with no sweets? If you can't go for a whole week without sweets, something might be up there, right? Can you go for a whole month without any sweets? When I say sweets, I'm talking about anything that tastes particularly sweet, and I'm particularly talking about things that are man-made, artificial. If you can't go for a whole month without, I have to have that. I'm not saying it's quite in the same ballpark as the person who can't go for a week without it, but I'm saying maybe something could be a little better there. If you could go for a whole year without eating any sweets, and you're fine. I think that you're in great shape. I think nothing is wrong that way. A year. Because what are sweets? Sweets are, you know, Halloween. The nice little goodies. They're not real food, and we shouldn't treat them as such. Okay. I don't know what to do about food deserts yet. I know that there are solutions, but there are people that still struggle with food deserts, and there's still people that struggle on low incomes and things. And there are people that struggle with um, sugar cravings, and addictions, and diabetes, and being really heavy, and all this stuff. And look, it's just everything you can do, every habit you can make and stick to it, and make it a permanent change. It doesn't happen overnight, but it has to be, lose some weight the healthy way, be more active, take more control of your life. I'm gonna have to make a part 3 here. I'm sorry, that's too much to mention. Talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.